Chapter 2. Ilya's thinking about Olga's two nevers, and it says, what a difference between them. One has withered away, but the other has burst into full bloom. So, if you remember the two nevers of Olga's, the first was when Ilya was overcome with passion and wanted to kiss her, and she said never. So she's displaying some decorum, some propriety, which was the right thing. And that was the first never. The second never was when Ilya had proposed to her. And then they talked about propriety again, and he said that there's another path to happiness. And he goes on to discuss passion and acting in an indecorous way by seeing each other without a chaperone. And we discussed it in another chapter, so I don't need to go into it in detail here, but it was to do with Olga feeling that she had to act with propriety. And he said, what if you were not to do that? And she said, I would never do that. So that was her second never. So which one has withered away and which one has burst into full bloom? It talks of how now that they've had the proposal, the discussion about how they're going to be, that now the poem had ended and now began the prosaic narrative. And it also says that love has now become a duty for Ilya. So is it the passion that's withered away? And it must be. Not that the passion's withered away, but that they are now able to control it and not follow this other path to happiness. I suppose that's what it means. And Ilya wants to tell Olga's aunt right away about their being engaged. And Olga's like, no, you got lots of practical things to do first. Go to the courthouse, sign the papers, sort out your estate, find a flat for us. All these kind of practical problems to solve. And Ilya just wants to tell everyone to shout from the rooftops. And then we get this quotation, which I liked here. It kind of illustrates the difference between the two characters. What a strange thing Olga is. She never takes the time to dwell on anything, to savour or relish a moment of poetry. It's as if she takes no interest in dreaming or pleasure in rapt contemplation of happiness. So it's kind of like Ilya is the heart and Olga's the head in the relationship. So Ilya goes to the courthouse to sort out the papers he needs to sign, and he goes to visit a friend of his, Ivan Gerasimovich, and ends up having lunch with him. He goes to ask him for directions, I think, to the office where he needs to go. They end up having lunch, and by the time they finish their lunch, the office where he needs to go is closed. And then the weekend's coming, so we've got this pattern here. It's not working out. And then he goes to the house that Terentiev rented for him on the Vyborg side of Petersburg. Remember, he's trying to meet the brother, so he can tell the brother he doesn't want the apartment. And he's only spoken to the landlady so far. He hasn't met the brother. So he goes to the apartment. It's a pigsty. His furniture's all piled up in a room. It hasn't been touched. And we meet the landlady, Agafya Matveyevna. And Ilya keeps saying to her that he can't take the apartment. Could she please pass on a message to her brother? Because she's like, I need to talk to my brother about this. He's in charge of all the finances and all the admin. And he's like, well, no, just tell him. Tell him for me. I can't move in. I need to give up the apartment. And she's like, no, it's fine. He'll be here. You need to see my brother. So it's kind of a comedy of errors in a way, or it's a comic scene in a way. Lots of repetition without anything being resolved. So that's the end of that chapter. But interesting to note that we've now had a conversation between Ilya and Agafya Matveyevna. So keep that in mind. Right, so these videos are going to be going out once a week as public videos on YouTube. So if you're following this on YouTube and you're wanting to get them more often, you can do that by subscribing to my Substack over at camscampbellreads.substack.com and subscribe to the Oblomov section, because they'll be going out much more often, possibly daily, depends on how I manage to keep up with my busy weekends that are coming up and travelling and stuff like that. But that's my intention. Still to get through this by the end of June, might stretch into July. In fact, it probably will, if I'm honest. So if you want more often videos, then go to Substack, where these will be going out as part of my daily-ish essays, where if you're following along with me, you can do that. Otherwise, I'm not going to put them out so often on YouTube. I'd rather that they went out less frequently, so I'll probably put them out something like Monday mornings at 9. Does that sound like a good plan? So you can catch them when you get to work and you need a skive. I don't know. Once a week seems like a good cadence to put these out. So if that's how it's going to be publicly, but there'll be unlisted videos which you can watch before time over on Substack. So hope that makes sense.